In one of my previous videos, I talked about costs for a subject to transaction. So if you're buying a property subject to, there are costs that are associated to buy it, okay? And I break those costs up into two different ways. So we have cost of acquisition, or some may refer to it as cost of entry. And there's a list of things that you want to get the dollar amount of to know exactly what the total cost is associated to purchasing that property. But then you have what we might refer to as, at least I refer to it as, a COD, or cost of disposition. That means, what are the costs associated to me exiting this deal? So I know how much it's going to cost for me to buy it subject to, but how much is going to cost for me to either rent it, buy and hold, or sell it, fix and flip it. I want to know what those costs are. And so if I'm underwriting a deal in which I have a couple case studies inside of my creative real estate investing course, I talk about it in my workshops, and I give this information to my students and mentees because I want them to see real life case studies and how all these things break down. I don't like to give you hypothetical examples. So I do have a case study where we purchased a property that was subject to the existing mortgage, okay? And there was about a $99,000 loan balance, okay? So that would be LB for the loan balance. The ARV for this property was $240, okay? So we know that there was an equity spread, right? There was an equity spread between the loan balance and the ARV. We know that there was an equity spread. However, I still needed to determine what my total cost of acquisition was going to be, like how much it was going to cost. So I had to go through cash to seller, renovations, commissions, assignments, carrying costs. Once I went through that list, in this particular case study, I believe my total cost for acquisition was going to be $78,000, okay? So that's going to be very important, because if I sell it for $240, I'm going to have to deduct the $78 I put in it, and I'll have to deduct the $99,000 that I know I owe to the bank, right? Now, my cost of disposition, which are the costs associated to selling it and or my costs associated to rent it. So when I'm looking at my cost of disposition, yes, I'm looking at the ARV, what I can sell it for, what that dollar amount is, but I'm also looking at my gross rent value. How much can I rent it for? Because I want to see what makes the most sense. So with this particular case study, I knew I could sell it for $240. I could only rent it for about $1,800. Okay? But remember, my cost of acquisition at this time was going to be $78,000. Okay? So I had to make a decision, which wasn't a hard decision. Am I going to put $78,000 in a property and hold it for $1,800 a month rent, or sell it for $240,000 when I knew my loan balance was $99, and I also knew that I'll put LB here for loan balance, and then I'll put PITI for the monthly payment. It was about $915. So if you just look at this, you'll see $915 out of $1,800 with any expenses or maintenance or management fees. I might have netted somewhere between $600 or $700. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, even if it was $700 times 12, we're talking about less than $10,000 a year. I would have netted cash on cash if I rented it. If I sold it, $240 minus $99 minus $78, I think my net would have been somewhere close to $40K. So I had to make a decision. But how can I make that decision? When I'm gathering the data to determine what my costs are for this subject to. I'm going to look at my cost of acquisition, what that number is, and then I'm going to come back and look at my cost of disposition, which my disposition is either going to be rent, or my disposition is either going to be sale. So I'm not going to put $78,000 in a property just to make $10,000 in 12 months, plus have tenant issues, plus something can go wrong, where I could put $78,000 in it. I can list it for $240,000, and within a couple weeks I can make $40,000, or I can net 40. Actually, at closing, the check was the 40 plus the 78, so it was about $118,000, I think, in that check. But I netted 40, and we bought it, fixed it, and flipped it within like a 4-week window. It was like within less than 4 to 5 weeks. I think in the 5th week we were at the closing table. So I could make $40,000 net and get my 78 back in 4 weeks or 5. Or I could leave 78 there. It's stuck. It's locked in equity, and make $10,000 in a year. You see how I did that? Because in underwriting, I want to know what my COA is, or COE, cost of acquisition. I want to know what my cost of disposition. And when I play all that out, I knew that even before I got in the contract to buy the property subject to. So this is why the power of underwriting is so important. If you need access to my underwriting worksheet, my workshop, our bi-weekly meetups, or the courses where I teach all this information, and just the mentorship. We have a community where I'm giving people this game to show them that you can help a lot of people and make a lot of money in the process. Just click the link in the description, reach out to me and my team. We'll be more than happy to give you access to the information we have and help you get your first deal, hopefully within the first 90 days. I'll see you on the other side.